Well, thank you. Such a nice introduction.
Yes, thank you.
So let me get my shopping mall out of my pocket, and I'll use it as a timer today. So, welcome everybody. Wow, what a scenery. What a setting. A docking station.
It's suiting.
Could you please do me a favor? If there's a truck coming from behind, could you warn us? If we can get out of the way? Yeah? Thank you very much. So, let's get started.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So today we're going to talk about some, I believe, very interesting technologies. Some technologies you might have heard about, you might even have learned about during studies. But today we're not going to explain how all these things work. I leave that for a university. However, we are going to explain how you can use them in the real world after your studies. And in a very, well, I would say very interesting field, online shopping. So let's get the story started. So let me take you on a journey, a shopping journey in the dark ages. So suppose I want to buy the best product ever, and I had no clue what the best product ever was, so I had Google answer that question for me. This is it. Not sure what it is, but it sure looks good. And maybe you want to have these as well by the end of the day, so let's hope not. So I rushed my way to the shopping mall and to find the shop closed, or just before closing time, I rush in to find this, empty shelves. I hate that. Or even worse, this. Recognizable? Yeah? And then when you finally get your hands on your product, on that best product ever, there's that queue. And not to mention the ride back home. So, welcome to the golden age. Welcome to the age of online shopping. It could have been very simple. I could have just ordered it online with a cappuccino on the side. Splendid. So, online retail killed the shopping mall. I'm not going to answer that question for you. I want you to think about that. Well, maybe in the discussion session we can get back to it. So, who are you guys anyway? What do you know about shopping? Well, I think Annemarie already explained who we are, but maybe Wouter can do it again.
Yeah, so I'm Wouter, and I'm a software engineer at bol.com. I'm part there of the Young Professional program, which is a fancy way of saying you're a junior programmer or fresh out of college, in my case.
Assistant, yeah.
Yeah, well, not that. Before that, I studied in the University of Amsterdam. I did my master's degree there in software engineering. Before that, I did my bachelor in the University of Utrecht, computer science. If you want to know more about the Young Professional program, then come talk to me after. That's it. Nick.
Thank you, splendid. So my name is Nick Tinnemeier. I also studied computer science. I did that at the University of Twente. Anybody from Enschede here? Awesome. After that, I decided to prolong my study time a little bit by doing a PhD at Utrecht University. And well, after some swirling around, I became a senior developer at bol.com. And I'm very thrilled to be speaking at the symposium I once started, the SNiC. It was the Digitainment, was the very first. Yeah, sorry guys, shameless plug. My boss still pays me to be here, so we had to put in this slide, so I'll keep it short. So, bol.com, we have 22 million unique visitors a month. We have 1,500 employees, and we're still growing. We have 300 IT professionals. Well, as a matter of fact, I believe it is more than that, and it's really an IT-driven organization. And yeah, I really love working in such a great, innovative organization. And I'm not saying that because I had to, but because I mean it, it's true. So, a brief history of online retail. I know history is dull, it's boring, so I devoted only one slide to it. It all started with the internet. ARPANET, the military network, then 1982 switched to another protocol, TCP/IP, which still empowers the internet as we know it today. Then for a long time, nothing really happened. But then in the 90s, things really got interesting. So it all started with Netscape, who introduced secure socket layer, which enabled us to do payments in a secure way. I mean, your money being lost, it would be terrible, right? So soon thereafter, well, now you might wonder, what Sting? What did he do with online retail? Well, nothing at all, to be honest. Well, this was the first product being sold online ever. It's the CD of Sting. I would have made a different choice, but that's just me. And then soon thereafter, well, the big companies, big online retailers, eBay, Amazon, the pioneers in online retail, they opened the doors. So, Short enough, right? So in the rest of the presentation, we're going to show you some challenges in online retail, and we're going to show you how some cool technologies can solve that, as we do it today, and how we have some new upcoming technologies which might even push solving those challenges further. But to understand the challenges, you first need to know where the success comes from. So first of all, there's the convenience. You can shop in your pajamas. Not that he's going to carry his shopping in his pajamas anyway, but I think for most of us like me, that's really a plus. It's really convenient shopping online. And then, as another factor of its success, there's the huge variety of products you can find online. If, for example, I'd like to have a copy of FIFA 2018, I just go to the local game store, and I'll probably find it there. However, if I like to check out the City of Sting, the first one being sold online, well, I'm going to have a hard time finding that in a local shop. If you go to bol.com, Amazon, or eBay even, you will find it. I checked it yesterday, so let's hope it's still true. So just to give you a picture, how big is big? So these are the top 10 categories, and if you add them up, we get to 16 million different products we sell online. So do you think that's a lot? This is just bol.com, yeah. So No, those are external sellers as well. Yes, very good point. Yeah, I'll get back to that later. So 60 million, and I believe that's quite a lot. But if you have a look at Amazon, well, only these are the top 10 categories of Amazon. Only their electronics department is doing 19 million different products. And of course, you have to see that in perspective because we're, well, only catering for the Netherlands, Belgium. This is worldwide, of course, but still, I mean, that's a lot. It's huge. So now we know a little bit where its success comes from. We can have a look at the challenges of online retail. And again, it's this huge amount of products that becomes a challenge. Because I can tell you a story, how we did it in the early years of bol.com. We started selling books. People literally, well, we had to get the content online. So what happened? We had people walking across the street to the local Bruna store, buying a single copy of each book, putting it under a scanner, and, well, voila, there you have your content. How are you going to do that when you have 12 million books or 30 million like Amazon does? It's not going to scale that well. So that's going to be a problem. So how are you going to scale your business processes? Another thing is, if I go to the local shop, to the local bookstore, and they probably recognize me by my face, and I tell them, hey, I really liked reading this book, Life of Pi. Can you recommend a similar book like that? Well, they probably have some suggestions just for me. And in online retail, yes, you can also do that, but it's going to be very difficult because you have such a wide range of products, and, well, you don't know who's entering your shop. It's really difficult to recognize someone with 22 million unique visitors a month. And for Amazon, I don't know the number from the top of my head, but I reckon it's way bigger. And then there are some technological challenges. Having 22 million unique visitors really puts a lot of pressure on your infrastructure, on your systems. And then there's your code base with new categories opening, new shops opening their doors. Your code base gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you probably have a lot of developers. We have 240 developers at the moment, which are all working in one code base. And yeah, it's going to be a mess. People will get in each other's way. There's no single person who understands the complete code base. So that's going to be very tricky. So the challenge, we would say, of online retail is scalability. So its success also becomes its problem. So how can we cope with that? So how can we scale our service and business processes with that enormous growth? Well, first of all, by allowing competitors to sell on our platform. And, well, you already asked about it, so you already knew we're doing that. If you, for example, go to Amazon, and I'm not sure what product I was looking for, but a product, I can just pick a seller. Star, MDN USA, Amazon, even, DealZone. And that's a bit weird, isn't it? We're allowing our competitors to sell their goods on our platform. But if you think about it for a bit longer, it actually helps. It makes sense. Those people are usually small shops. They have excellent service. They know their product in and out. They can provide you with the service. They will provide you with the content. So you don't have to hire the complete Netherlands to fill your content. We just, well, work together as a team and to give you, as a customer, the best product. And we're all doing it. We are doing it. Amazon's doing it, as you can see. Zalando is doing it. eBay from the beginning. And then, how can we scale our code base? Well, we just break the system apart into smaller chunks, into what we call microservices. So we have different units which can all be running separately, apart from each other, and which we can deploy separately. And as a plus, because you have small chunks of code, small programs, which can run separately, you can just give one of those programs to a team of developers, which will then know all the ins and outs. And for us, that really works. Sorry, I don't have the figures of other companies. I know that Amazon and Zalando are definitely doing microservices. I've seen some talks about that. We are also doing it. We have some numbers to check, well, did it really help us? Well, it did. Back in 2014, we had one big application, a monolith. Now we have more than 250 microservices running. Back then, we had one release a month, and now we can, we can just release continuously. We have 550 releases a month. Whoa, what's this?
That's a serious incident.
That reminds me, a serious incident, yeah. So we had 25 of those a month back in 2014, and now we have at most one serious incident a month. And even with a growing number of developers, growing code. And I believe it's mainly because teams have more ownership of what they build. They deploy it themselves, so we're doing DevOps. They build it themselves. We have this motto, you build it, you run it, you love it. Well, you have to love it. And back then, we reduced 4 hours of planned downtime a month to 18 minutes. 18 minutes a month. So for us, it really helps. And yeah, I'm sure for Amazon and Zalando, it also helps. But I believe the best is yet to come. This is how we cope with the scale currently. But there are some interesting technologies which can help us even further. For example, big data, machine learning, augmented reality, and there's blockchain. And there's voice search, Internet of Things, cloud computing, drones, all the things we, we'll not talk about in this presentation. So Wouter, do you mind telling us a bit about big data?
Not at all.
Okay, there
Thanks.
you go.
So, big data. Well, I just heard Nick say that we are not as big as the internet giants, like Amazon, Facebook, or Google, for that matter. But still, we definitely do big data at bol.com. So when is data big? When does a process become big? Well, as soon as your process is not able to run anymore on a single server or a single computer, you have to split it up, and you're doing big data. Because as soon as you have to split it up, you need to deal with all the challenges that come with big data. Big data, in the end, is not always that complicated in the sense of what you're doing. It's mostly easy statistics or just counting stuff. But having to split it up and then bring it back together again can be a real challenge. So how do we use big data in online retail? Well, one of the most common things you see it for is stuff like this. So it's more personalization. In this case, it's Coolblue, telling you which products are mostly sold in their shop. And you can imagine if you have thousands or maybe millions of products sold each month, that getting all those shop orders from your servers, extracting all the items which were in there, and then summing them up could be a real challenge. Also, you have some ranges maybe which you want to filter on, because is this best sold today, last day, this month? And this gets even more complicated when you look at this example, which Amazon gave me. They recommended me some books. And then it's probably also the most sold items in the shop, but then filtered maybe on what I bought previously, or maybe from people on my same location, or stuff like that. And big is not even enough, right? Because business will always come up with more. And it's not just big data, but it's becoming fast data more and more. So the challenge is moving from not just coping with the data, but also providing the answers really fast for the business. So we would like to say it's more a challenge of fast data than big data. But how hard can it be, right? I mean, still, all this stuff seems easy enough. Well, let's imagine we are developers, and the business comes to us. So the business person comes and tells us, Nick, Wouter, come on. I really want to know what the total amounts of sales were yesterday. Make a fancy dashboard for that, for example. All right, and then we start thinking, okay, well, we have a lot of a service running with our website, and we have the mobile app as well, so it's a lot of data. We're going to aggregate it. But still, we have our cluster of computers running, so, well, okay, we can split it up, and then in the end, we just accumulate the data and provide you the number. And this is quite easy, right? Because no matter how I would split this up between all the computers, the answer will always be the same, because it's just a summation. Easy enough. Well, as it goes with business, as soon as one thing is finished, the next thing is already there. So immediately after we've done this, we're like, okay, great, but now we want to know the unique customers in our shop. And this can be not just your website, but also you have shops in shops, right? Because we sell electronics, we sell furniture, we sell clothing, and mostly these are organized independently, and they want to know the numbers for it. So they say, I want to know the unique customers in my shop, because maybe I want to know the turnover per customer. And okay, you start thinking again, okay, that's pretty easy. I mean, we still have all the servers running the web shop, and we have the mobile app, and we're gathering a lot of data, but I could think of a way to do it. And the most naive way of doing it would be, well, we have a list of users, maybe these are IP addresses or user IDs, and we go just through them, right? We just loop it. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, all right, 4. And then, okay, yes, unique customers, so 1, I already saw that one, so okay, let's keep the set of users that we have seen in the memory, and then each time we see a new number, we just check there to see if we already seen it. And I know this is kind of naive, because keeping this in memory gets pretty big really soon, so, but still, let's assume that we can do it, and we continue. So we don't count to 1 again, but we do count to 5, we do count to 6. Well, great. Now we know the numbers. But, as I told you, it's big data. We cannot run this on a single computer. Maybe because the numbers are too big, maybe it will take too long for the computer to calculate it. So we're going to split it up. And I'm going to split it up on my servers and give each of them a list of user IDs. And I say, okay, do the same algorithm we did before. And they're going to give me back their number. And I'm going to add them up. And of course, it's wrong, because there's a duplicate in there. We counted 1 twice. And as it turns out, there is actually no way of solving this problem. It's not yet possible, unless one of you is working on a really interesting paper, to count the unique number of IDs in a set when you do it across multiple machines. And this is actually a real problem that we faced at bol.com. We solved it by using a hyperlog++ algorithm, which, if you want to know more about, talk to me afterwards or Google it. It's really fancy. But still, that doesn't give you an exact number. The best we can do is give you an estimate. So with the probability, we can say, well, it's probably 8, but could be 9, could be 7. Probably not 1, though. And the point I'm making here is that it's not just the technology that has to scale, but that someday you will find yourself maybe explaining to the business that, hey, the question you ask me is just not possible anymore, because we've grown too big. And this simple question suddenly becomes really hard to answer. And it's not just we that need to scale, but it's also the business that needs to scale along with it, because they have to accept that these kind of queries are not possible anymore. So let's talk about machine learning, because big data, it's quite mainstream already. It's more of a technology that it's really hyped a couple of years ago, and everybody's doing it. But machine learning is one that we are just implementing, and there's a lot of new stuff happening. So I know there are some AI specialists in the room probably, but if you would explain machine learning to your grandmother, then you would maybe try it like this. Like, well, can anyone solve this without a computer?
16.
Yes. No, of course not, right? It's too complicated. It takes too long. 60 million something. But your computer could do this instantly, right? I mean, even your 20-year-old calculator could do this instantly. It's a really easy question. Well, machine learning allows us to answer questions like this, which for us, really easy, right? I mean, we instantly know this is a dog and not a cat, but it took a while for computers to get there. But now that we can have some real cool stuff. Because when you get really big, you eventually run into problems like this. Because you can imagine there are millions of products on our website, and thousands come in each day, and 1,000 go out each day. And we're not the only source, because we have the sellers on our platform as well. So eventually, somebody's going to make a mistake, and we have this product on our website. This was actually true. And I don't know about you, but that's a weird-looking USB cable. I mean, I know we have fancy USB flash drives, but this was new for me. And yeah, looking at who is selling it, it might not even be the picture that's wrong, but maybe the title is wrong. And to go through all these examples by hand is too much work, right? I mean, we cannot do it. There are millions of products. But a machine learning algorithm could very easily detect, like, hey, that's a weird-looking USB cable. All the other USB cables look very different. So the outlier detection could really help us here. And this doesn't only have applications like in the digital sense, but also in the real world. Because at Bol.com we sell many products. Some are big, some are small. So the small ones would be USB cable or the awesome DVD or CD that Nick told us about. And we also have the big stuff, like you have here, like furniture or your washing machine or stuff like that, stuff which doesn't fit in the box. And someday, this USB cable came up in the warehouse for the big stuff. And people were quite surprised about that, because what's this doing here? Well, as it turns out, we keep two sets of numbers for each product, namely the dimensions of the product itself and the dimensions of the box it comes in. And in this case, they were switched. So the box that was requested for this cable, it was a long cable, was 6 meters. And it came into the warehouse for the big stuff. Can you imagine your USB cable coming in a box of 6 meters? That would be, it would barely fit in your house, right? It's stupid, and of course it's wrong, but it's really hard to detect if you have to do it by hand. But a computer, again, could say, wow, that's kind of weird, that USB cable is the only one there. Does somebody need to take a second look at this? And you could think, well, you could do this in code as well, right? I mean, you could just have like dimensions, maximums for USB cables. But this is not scalable because we have so many products. And how do you know if a USB cable doesn't become bigger than that? And you need something smarter. We need machine learning for that. One other part that is really going to help us scale is conversational AI. Because if we sell twice as many products, we cannot just scale our customer service with twice as many people. It's just not profitable. So we use bots for this as well, because most of the questions people have are quite easy to answer. And conversational AI is kind of in its infancy still. We're not sure, we don't have the technologies available yet as a software engineering perspective to really make fancy stuff. I mean, we can make little jokes, but that's as fancy as it gets, actually. But it would be great, right? I mean, this is something you guys might be working on. It would be great if we have to talk, if we don't have to talk anymore to a person, but to an actual computer. And I would prefer that. I mean, you don't have to wait in line for a person who might not even be able to help you. It would be awesome. Another thing we have at Bol.com is image recognition. Because we do have a part of our shop which is only for 18 years old and older, 18-year-old and older people. And we might not want to advertise all these products on our landing page, right? Or for Google, for that matter, because Google Shopping doesn't allow certain types of images. Yet this is a very popular category in our shop as well. So we do want it on our website. And actually, other young professionals had a really cool project with machine learning where they did some, well, nudity detection and made sure that some images are not shown on the website because they're a little too graphical for the normal audience or for Google. And this is really cool, right? Because imagine having to scan this by hand. Would be fun maybe, but not doable. And of course, there's many more, which we just don't have time for you to explain. But I mean, search for similar products just by uploading a picture. I mean, it would be great if I could take a picture of my shirt and find similar ones. Maybe even knows my size, who knows? But also fraud detection, because even if you're an online shop, people will still try to rob you. But luckily, you follow patterns, and we can detect them. Also, forecasting. This is also really valuable for us because 15 million products don't fit in a warehouse. So you need some smart way of predicting when certain products are going to be sold. But there's a little problem with machine learning as well, something we see with big data where there's a business acceptance that needs to come. And I want to illustrate this with an example I have. So let's for a moment think that we are the machine learning algorithm, and I give you a training set, just some binary classification. So I label my training set with yes and no, and the images on the left are for yes, and the images on the right are no. All right? And now a new image comes in, and is it a yes or is it a no? And of course, you also write through it is a yes, of course, because it's a box, right? Thank you. But This can become a problem, right? Because it's a funny example, but it's happening in the real world. For example, we sell banners on our page. So a big brand comes to bol.com and says, hey, I want a banner on your homepage, on your landing page, and I will pay you a lot of money for it. And then the same day, the guy who sold this banner is going to our website and doesn't see it. And then he rings you up, saying, oh, I thought I sold you this banner. Why am I not seeing this on the page? And you have to explain, well, yeah, there's some personalization going on here. So depending on where you're from, your age, or what you've bought, we personalize this content for you. And then this guy wants to know, yeah, but I paid for it, and how does this work? Well, how does it work? And that can be quite hard to explain, right? Because sometimes these internals of the systems, we don't really know what the criteria are that they're scanning for. I mean, in this case, you might be thinking you were differentiating between cats or dogs, whilst instead you were doing it on boxes. So again, here, the business might need to change their way of working and their way of selling, which is really interesting and makes it a lot of fun. Nick, tell us about augmented reality. Thanks.
So how much time did you leave me? Oh, whoa, you consumed up all my time.
We started early.
I'm gonna, yeah, maybe it was me myself.
We started early.
I'm just gonna rush through these slides because I really believe blockchain is way more interesting. So, can I assume that everybody knows the difference between augmented and virtual reality? I see a lot of nods, yes. Okay, we're not gonna talk about virtual reality, something I want you to think about again, because we don't believe it's really gonna, well, make an impact in online retail. So, best known example of of augmented reality, IKEA's app. You can just drag your furniture around, see if it fits, if the color fits, if it matches with your furniture. Then you can use it for putting on makeup, trying makeup without actually having to put it on your face. Or check out some jewelry. Well, I see a yes. Someone is really excited. And then recently, Converse launched an app, and there are many more examples where you can just actually fit on clothing without having to fit it on. Do you think this is exciting? Well, some people, yes, no. Well, actually, I was rather disappointed because I learned that all those applications, they were from 2014 already, and I still don't see them on a wide scale. So I was disappointed. But what makes us still believe that it's going to get a lift-off in the near future is because of this recent development. Apple introduced ARKit in iOS 11, enabling developers to, well, develop really cool AR applications. And Google is doing the same. Not sure who was first, because the launch date is August, September, sort of 1 month apart. And this, I believe, is really going to make it easier to build AR applications. And it's really going to help us. They have nice integration with the lenses. And indeed, I found this quite recent application, a virtual ruler, where you can just measure the dimensions of things in a room and measure the room. And if you think about it, if you integrate that with, for example, the IKEA app, well, you don't have to invite this guy over if you buy an IKEA kitchen who has to do all the measurements. You can just do it with your phone online. And I think that would be great. And then, yes, I wish I've had this one. So last week, I had to replace the light bulb of my car. I assume most of you don't have a car, but it's a drama. It took me an hour, and then it took the mechanic an hour to fix the mess I made. Wish I only had this one. I really think this is, this is great. So how can it help augmented reality? Well, you can provide people with more tailored service without actually having to hire people to do that. But also, it can help in reducing the return rates. This is an interview with Zalando, and the interviewer says, well, I've heard rumors that 70% of your goods are returned. And then the CEO goes, well, it's not that bad, it's only 50%. So what, 50%? And if you can just fit your clothes online, check if the color, I don't have to order a medium, a small, a large, an extra large, and send back, best case, 3 of the 4. Okay, well, a bit more interesting technology, I would say. Blockchain. Who already knows about blockchain? Who knows how it works? Wow, quite a few. Nice. I'm going to try to explain it in just a couple of slides, and be aware it's really simplified, so there's way more to it. So I'm going to explain it by the best known example, best known implementation of blockchain, Bitcoins. If you look at it, a blockchain is just nothing more than a state transition diagram. We have a state, how much Bitcoins do we own, and there's a transformation function. In this case, transferring an amount of money from person X to person Y, which just boils down to deducting the amount from, subtracting the amount from X balance and adding it to Y's balance. So a very simple transition function. So let's transfer some money to Wouter. So on the left, in the left block, you see the initial state, how much bitcoins do we own, and then on the right, you see the result of transferring the money together with all the transitions that made the state happen. And typically in a blockchain, there's more than one transition stored in a block. And what makes a blockchain very secure is the fact that each block is linked to its previous block by means of a cryptographic hash function. So, well, that sounds kind of fancy, but the consequence is that if I like to change, if I'm a malicious programmer and I'm going to change the middle block there, well, the whole chain is going to break apart because the block on the right, the last block, won't point anymore to the middle block. So it makes it, that's one of the things that makes it very secure. Another thing is that there's not one single truth of the system. It's distributed. Everybody has a copy of the blockchain. So those two things, and there are way more things that make this technology really secure. So that's really cool. And it's completely trusted. I mean, this guy sold his house for bitcoins, and he hopes to be a millionaire in 4 years. And I believe he's going to pull it off. I wouldn't do it, but still. So if you look at how we transferred money in the old way, well, actually, we're still doing it like that. At least I do. You just transfer euros to a bank, and you trust the bank, the third party, the middleman, to transfer the money to the one you're transferring it to. In a Bitcoin way, you just do it by the network. It's just way more direct. So actually, we're cutting out the middleman. So a very obvious application of blockchain for online retail, bye-bye PayPal, bye-bye Ideal. We're just going to pay in bitcoins, and we don't have to pay fees anymore. We don't have all those trusted parties which we need to connect to. We can just do it in one blockchain, which we can program ourselves. But it really gets interesting when you realize that blockchain is not just for bitcoins. It's more than that. The state can be anything, so can a transition function. It's up to you. Like Ethereum, you can just program any of those. So let's have a look at an example. So here I use blockchain to track my order data. So I just can log the fact that I shipped the order, that the order is handled by PostNL, and then, which I believe makes it really, really cool, is that I can program smart contracts in it. I can just program a rule like, if my order is delayed by 8 hours, I have to refund the shipping costs, which I can do immediately because, well, bitcoins are just part of the network, part of the blockchain. So I can lock my order data, complete history that comes for free with the blockchain in a very secure way. And if I think a bit bigger, I can even track the complete product history. I can, well, some text walked away. So I can record the fact that that my iPhone got manufactured by Copy & Cat, packaged by Break and Throw, and shipped by Shady & Co., and eventually ended up in the Ball Fulfillment Center. Let's hope that's not true. But you can keep a complete track of the history in a secure way, and something, well, that is very hard to tamper with. And this can really be useful, for example, fighting counterfeit products, which, well, if you allow your competitors to sell on your platform, you also have some malicious parties which try to, well, we had an example where we sold, where a Plaza partner was selling counterfeit Apple products, for example. And yeah, you can see Amazon, eBay, they're all suffering from the same problem. And blockchain is a really interesting technology which can help us fight that. And then something that even really shocked me was this statement from a blog post. So let me read it out for you. Many successful businesses on the internet today are intermediaries. Think about Google for a minute. Google managed to become the intermediary between you and the entire internet. Think about Amazon. They became the intermediary between sellers and buyers for any type of good. That's why a technology that allows to remove intermediaries can potentially disrupt the entire internet. In other words, like stated in the other article I found, can blockchains replace retail giants like Amazon and eBay? So, you know, Wouter, maybe we should be looking for a new job. I don't know. Something to think about, maybe something to discuss in a discussion session. well, we're just a few minutes away from lunch, so hold on. So, the problem of online retail is its scalability. We've shown you how we can tackle that by allowing competitors to sell on our platform, to join up and form a winning team, breaking our code base apart into separately deployable chunks. We've shown you some applications of big data, machine learning, augmented reality, and blockchain, and all of that just because all of you can shop in your pajamas. Thank you.